Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar where we're going to be having a look at some tips to customize your customer ledger within Sage 50 Accounts Desktop. So today I'm going to be giving you an introduction into some tips and tricks to use and customize your customer ledger in your Sage 50 Accounts software. Following that, I'm going to go through a series of demonstrations within the program just so you can see how it all works. Now, don't worry if you're thinking there's a lot of little bits and pieces here to take in. You're going to get a recording of the webinar in around about an hour's time too. So there is a great guide as well, which I've popped on the slides, which basically covers everything that we're going to be looking at. So you'll have that recording to look back over, and you've also got a guide on our help centre, which covers it all step by step too. And like I say, there's other useful guides from our help centre, which just means you can have a go at your own pace, just with there being a few little things to cover. Sage 50 Accounts has built-in tips and tricks that just make it easier to customise things and save you time. It can make it easier to find items within large lists of customer records or transactions. For example, adding alternative rows just to your list and your modules. There's also different selection styles when selecting multiple records as well. You can configure your desktop, which includes hiding what you don't need, making the options that you do use easier to find. And you've also got hide deleted transactions, and you've also can hide inactive accounts from lists, activity windows, and reports. You can also speed up, or you can also save time as well, I should say, with the function keys, so speeding up your data entry, accessing options quicker, switching between your mouse and your keyboard. So if you use your mouse a lot more than you use your keyboard, there's also keys that you can use on there, which I'll show you too. I've included this slide, which basically just covers who the changes will impact if you make them. So this can be handy to refer back to. And I'm going to be going through them in the demonstration too, but this is more just for you to be able to refer to if you're downloading the slides. And it just tells you that you're going to be making a change, is it going to change it for just your username? Or if it's just company specific, so if you've got more than one company, it'll just change it for that particular company in. If any other users log into that company, is it going to change it for them? Or is it PC specific? So do the changes just apply to your PC? So if you're logged on somebody else's, would those changes that you've made follow you? So it's quite a handy slide to have there to refer back to. But we'll jump straight in with the demonstrations there, because it is more sort of demonstration based, this quick learn around customer tips and tricks. So I'm just going to pop my Sage on your screen there, and I'm in my customers module straight away. So the first thing I'm going to show you is configuring your toolbars and your columns. And this is user specific. So this would follow your username around. So I'm logged in as manager. If I log in on another PC, I would get the same changes that I'm going to make on here. So you might have some options down your left-hand side here that you don't use. So diary, for example, when I worked on technical support, not something I'd heard a lot of people using. So if it's something that you wanted to remove, you can right-click on here and you can choose what options you want to see. It may be that your username doesn't use other options. So if I remove the diary, it just hides it from there. If I wasn't using charities or projects, I can right-click and we can just take them off just by right-clicking and removing them from there. So it just tidies it up a little bit for you, just seeing what you actually do use. If you ever just want to pop them back on, it's as simple as just right-clicking and just adding them back in again. There's my charitable funds. Or you can right-click, use defaults, and it'll pop everything back in there for you. There's my project and my diary. So it makes it a bit easier. So if you're not using those, you can just remove them. You can also show and hide column headings as well. So you've got these headings along the top here. If there's some that you're not using, I'm just going to click on one so they're all highlighted so you can see them a bit better. So if you've got some that you're not using along here, it's just the same. We can right click and we can decide what we don't want in here. So I might want to remove some of these, maybe I'm not using the mandates on there. So we can right click. I can just hide these in the background. So it doesn't delete them, just hides them in the background. And you've got more space for everything else along here that you are using. If you want to pop them back on again, you can either just right click and add them, or you've got the option of use defaults at the bottom there, which just pops everything back in for you. That's also the same for some of the option windows as well. So if we have a look at a batch invoice, for example, you've got the headings along here. Maybe that you don't use projects and you have to tab past this every time. You can right click and you can just remove it. Just click on there, it just takes it out for me. Just makes it a bit easier for anything that you're not using. It might be that you never put an extra reference in. You can right click on there and you can just remove it. It just means when you open up your batch customer invoice window from now on, you don't need to keep tabbing past those. Just close out of that window. As I say, you can just use the defaults just to reset it as well on there, so it just makes it a bit easier. You can also choose which module your Sage opens on as well. So when I open up Sage initially, it comes onto the home screen here. Now, it might be that you just want it to open straight onto your customer's screen, just so it opens straight away on there. And you can change which screen it opens on by going to Tools, the top, down to Options. Just tells us it's going to close all open windows. Just going to say yes to that. And it always opens on the other screen. So I'll just pull it over from there. And if we just go into View, so at the moment it's set to home, we can change that. Maybe that you wanted to open on bank feeds, but you can change that on here. You can scroll up and down. I'm going to choose customers on there. When I click OK, it'll change the next time I open Sage. And I'm going to be reopening Sage a bit later on. So we'll see when I open it, it'll open on my customers window. Just makes it a bit quicker when you're opening it there. So that's, as I say, that's user specific for that one as well. So that is your username. So if you're logged in with your username or you're logged in as with manager, that'll follow you around if you're logged in with that one. Another one is grouped items as well. So if I go back into customers, and you'll see along the top here, I've got everything spaced out. I'm on a larger screen on here. But if you're working off a laptop, so I'll just minimize this. You'll see that some of these have drop-down boxes now. So we've got new and edit. If you use the drop-down box, we've got options in here. I just highlight one just so you can see. So we've got options in there. It's just bunched them together. Same with the direct debit manager, bunched them together in there. And also reports as well. So you've got them all bunched up together in there. Now, if you're using a smaller screen, it's going to group those up for you, just so they can fit them all in the screen. But you'll have a smart link at the top. So if I click on this, it'll open up for me my customer reports. Now, it might be that you don't use the reports window. You might use the statements, and you don't want the quick link to open up your reports. So you might not want to have to come to here, use the drop down, go to statements. You might just want to click on it from here and it opens statements for you. And you can change that in tools. Now I'm going to make it a bit bigger just so you can have a chance of actually seeing it. So if we go back to tools at the top and down to options again, just say yes to that window. That over from there. And if I go to toolbars this time, we've got all of the options. So obviously this is the ledger that it's in. So there's two in customers that we're bunching them together. We've got the direct debit mandate one. We've got the reports on there. You've also got your sales orders, invoice and credits, etc. So these are all the other areas that you can change it on to. So at the moment, in customers, my documents and reports, that smart link opens up my reports folder. Now if I just click on edit, pull it over from the other window, use my drop down box and say, right, I want that to open statements. I want the quick link at the top to open up my statements. I'm just going to say OK to that, OK to that. And if we go back into customers, and I'm just going to make it smaller again, so it groups them. We've now got our smart link at the top here. It's opened up my layouts now. So I've got my statements rather than my reports there. So if that's something that you need to change on there, it's quite easily done. Close out that and I'll make this bigger again just so you can actually see it. Another tip is if you use your keyboard more than your mouse, you can use the Alt key to open areas within Sage. And there's a code that shows on the system. So your Alt key is the one that's just the left-hand side of your spacebar on your keyboard. So instead of clicking into suppliers or clicking into customers and then clicking onto activity at the top or wherever you need to have a look, if you click the Alt key on your keyboard, you see there we've got numbers down the left-hand side, and along the top we've got some letters. So I want to go into, well, I'm in my customers. I'm just going to click on invoice and credit. So I'm out of that one. Go back to my Alt key. So if I want to open up customers, I can see that's O4. So I'm just going to type O4 into my keyboard and it's opened up my customers. Now, if I click Alt again, and we'll try and open the activity, which is Y at the top there. So if I hit Y, it opens up my activity window. Apologies, I had more than one selected in the background. It'll open up a blank activity window. You can choose where you want to go on there, which one you want to open or which customer you want to open. So if I highlight, open it up, gives me my customer activity. So just to show you that again a bit more clearly. So if I go Alt and we'll go into suppliers this time, just because I'm already in customers. So if I go O8, it opens up my suppliers. Now if I hit Alt again, and I might want to open up write-offs and returns up here. So if I just hit U on the keyboard, so I think I've got one highlight again. So if I go Alt on there, it's having a moment, I think. I'll try another one. We do Alt, we'll try the activity again, or document capture. Might not have set up on there. You can always tell when these, oh no, it is there. It's just because I haven't got it reconnected. I need to reconnect my document capture. So it has tried to open it for me, but I'm going to cancel that on there. Just close out because I haven't got that set up at the moment. But you get the gist of it on there. So you can click Alt, you can open up the area on there, and then you can open up for where you want to go. So it just makes it a bit quicker. If it is something that you use, you can probably tell I don't use this very often. I tend to use the mouse on there. So I'll click Escape just to come out of there as well. You've also got Alt F4 as well. So if I just open up the activity window, so I've got my activity window open there. If I go to Alt and F4, it closes the relevant window that I've got open. So again, if it's something that you're using your keyboard, more than you use your mouse. So if I've got a batch invoice window open, maybe I don't need that open anymore. If I do Alt and F4, it just closes that window there. We'll pop back to the slides just briefly. You can also add alternate row colours to the lists in each module as well as Sage 50 accounts. And this just makes it a bit easier to find things when you're looking at large lists of records. If you're trying to sort of work your way across the screen and see, what figure relates to which transaction that you're looking at, sometimes it's easier if you've got alternate colours in there. And you can access this from Tools at the top, Options, and then the Environment tab. So we're going to have a look at that now. We'll just pop back to my Sage. So at the moment, everything is just white on there in all the areas that I've got there. I've got no sort of alternate colours on there at the moment. So if I go to Tools at the top, and I'm going to go to Options again, and this is PC specific, I should say as well. So if you make this change, this is just on the PC that you're on. So if you go and log on to somebody else's computer, this won't follow you. It just stays on the computer that you're on. And then we're going to have a look at colours. So there's a couple of things that I want to have a look at in here first of all. And the first one is the colour theme. So at the minute, I've got mine set as light. So it's a nice light colour down the side here along the top. If I change that, I'm going to change it to dark, just so it makes it very obvious when I make that change. Click OK, and it tells us that the colour theme will only be changed once the application is restarted. So I'm going to say OK to that, and I'm going to restart that application. So I'm just going to close out of Sage. So just go to exit. I'm not going to take a backup just so it's a bit quicker. And I'm just going to reopen Sage again. And it should open on the customers screen there as well if I saved that correctly beforehand. So it's just obviously opening on my other screen. I'll just pull that onto this one once it comes to the login screen there. So I've just selected my company there. And then you get your login screen. My login details in on there. Then we'll have a look at those alternate row colours as well. So it's just configuring those connected services. And it should just be open. This is why I didn't restart it beforehand when I made that change. So can you see that's taking me straight into my customers module rather than the home. This is why I didn't restart it before, so you didn't have to watch me restarting it twice. You've obviously got your advice centre there. So I'll close out of that. But you've also got, it's a darker color down the side there as well. So if you're used to using like a dark mode on your computer, there was the, obviously the light mode was the one you were in before, and white just makes it white. But if we go back to tools, back into options, and then back to colors. So I'm now in my dark mode there. So the other one was white, which just changes it to white. And I'll not make you sit and just wait while it restarts again. But you get the idea of that. Now you've got the option of changing the color lines on there. So if we click on the little dropper, so we'll change customers, you get all of these options in here. Now, what I would say is don't choose a dark option, because if I highlight that and click OK, you see it's very hard to see. And I'll just briefly show you what it looks like in customers, because it'll probably hurt your eyes. But that's what it looks like. It's not very pleasant to look at. So we'll go back to tools and we'll go back to options. Say OK to that. Back to colors, and we'll choose a lighter color. So we would always say choose a lighter color. Now you're not just tied to these colors up here. We click on define custom colors. You've got the options in here. Maybe I want a nice light pink color. So let's say that's a nice light color. I could add that to my custom colors so it's in there. Click OK. Go and have a look and see what that one looks like. Much easier to see, and you can follow them across. So if I'm looking there, it just makes it a bit easier, so you're not sort of going across and then looking at the wrong figures. It just makes it a bit easier to see in between the lines there. So you can also, if we go back into tools and options, and just drag that across here, back into colors, you can do that for your other areas as well. So if I wanted to change suppliers, I might want that in a different color, maybe a blue color. So if I go and just take a nice light blue color, just add that in there as well. A nice color there. I know we're supposed to be looking at customers, but just to show you the difference on there. So you might want to have different colors for different ledgers as well. So there's my suppliers, there's my customers there. You can also, if you just want to go back to completely white, go back into tools and options, back into colors, and you can just tick ignore custom colors. And what that will do is it'll still leave those colors in there, so you can go and put them back on whenever you want to. If I go back to customers, just gone back to white again. So it's just taking that out there. Now, the other thing I'll show you is the selection style. So it's not technically just for customers, it's for sort of all areas on there. But at the moment, I've got my Windows selection style set up on there, which uses the standard Windows keyboard shortcuts. So at the minute, I'm just going to double check actually, because I think I have got, just go back into tools and options. I just want to check which one I've got selected, because I have a feeling that it might be, yeah, I've got Sage selection style set up. So if I just come out of here, Sage selection style allows you to click more than one. So you can see I'm not holding anything on my keyboard. I'm just clicking those lines and I'm just highlight them as I go there. So I've got to go right through and click them on there. Now, some people prefer to have that. Some people prefer to have the Windows selection style where you control and click, or you use the shift on there. So if we go and change that, and appreciate it's probably hard to tell if I'm holding the keys down or not. But if I go into tools and options again, a lot of these are in tools and options. And if I go into the environment tab, so I'm on Sage selection at the moment. If I change that and go to Windows, just say OK to that. Back into customers. When I click now, it doesn't hold the last one that I had highlighted. It's probably the easiest way to say that. But if I hold the control key on my keyboard, pretty much does what Sage selection style does. It'll keep, highlighting the ones that I'm clicking on. If I clear that, it might be that I want to highlight a whole chunk, so I can hold shift and highlight it that way as well. So it just depends on which way you prefer to use it. If you prefer just to have one highlighted and use your control and your shift key, or if you just want Sage selection style where it holds down, pretty much it's holding down control for you, I suppose, in the background, and it'll hold more than one at the same time there. So you've got both of those options. Another thing I want to look at is hiding deleted transactions. So if I just clear that, I'll have a look at this customer at the top, just because they're at the top there. Now, if we go into here, we've got a couple of Yeah, we have. We've got a couple of deleted transactions. We've got a deleted SR, and we've got more another deleted transaction at the top here. So we've got a couple of deleted transactions, and it might be that you're quite happy to have those shown in here because they're in red. You can quite easily identify them. Some people prefer them not to be shown in the activity though, especially if you regularly send things to Excel. So just to show you, I'm just going to send this to Excel. And apologies, it does take a few seconds because my computer needs an update, but I didn't want to run the update before a live webinar in case it took a bit longer. But if I just make this a bit bigger on here, you can see here, there's nothing in red to say anything's deleted. So just at a glance, it just looks like all the transactions. You can see here, it does tell you in the column, for the details that there are some deleted transactions. But unless you're very eagle-eyed on there, you could possibly miss a deleted transaction. So you can hide them from the customer activity. So if we come out of here, I'm just going to close that, not save it. Just put my Sage back on the window there. So this is my activity. So if I close out of here, and if I go to settings at the top, and this time I'm going to go into company preferences. Just tells us it's going to close all open windows. Put my password in, and then just drag that over from my other screen. And in the parameters tab at the top, you've got an option here for exclude deleted transactions. So it doesn't remove them, it just hides them in the background. So if I tick that and just say OK to that, if I go back into customers, and we'll have a look at their activity. So you can either click on activity at the top, or you can double click on the customer or the selected record, and you can go to activity on the left hand side there. You can see now I don't have any deleted transactions shown in here. They'll still be there in the background, but it's just some people don't like them in their actual activity on there. They just want to see the actual transactions. So you can hide those if you want to. They will still show in the transactions module. So if I just go into transactions, and this was my customer. Yeah, so it was my A1 design customer. It'll still show. You can see I've got a deleted this SR there. There's another one. So I've still got my deleted transactions. They're still in the transactions module, and that's just for auditing purposes. So it won't remove them or hide them from there. It doesn't technically remove them from the activity. It just hides them in the background. You want to pop them back in. Really easy. Just go back into settings, company preferences, and we're just going to unselect that tick box on there. So I'll put my password back in, parameters, untick that box. OK. Go back into customers, use the top one, go to the activity, and there, they're still there. So it just hides them out of the activity window. Just makes it a bit easier just to see, what you've got in there. Like I say, some people prefer to have them in there though, and that's absolutely fine. And the last bit I wanted to have a look at is inactive records. And I should just say the inactive records, this changes it for everybody, all companies. So whether you log on this computer with your username, a different computer with another username, it'll change it for everybody on here. And you can use inactive, the inactive flag to hide, and if you've got like older unused customers, and you can do this for suppliers and products, nominal or bank records as well. There is a full webinar which I've gone through before where I've ran through the criteria. It's just called inactive records. It's on our recordings page if you want a bit more information around the criteria. But it has to be things like the record has to have a zero balance and no unallocated transactions, that sort of thing. So if I go to, I know this customer here, this has got no balance on it. If we just have a look at the activity as well, we've got nothing sort of outstanding. There's no unallocated transactions on here either. And I'm not using this one. I don't want to delete it because it might be that we use them or they might use us again in the future. But at the moment, I just don't want it showing in my list. So if I just double click on the record, it'll open up that record for me. And in the details tab, the first one it opens on, I've got an inactive checkbox. Now, if I just show you the little question mark, always worth reading to see what they say. It says to set the customer as inactive to prevent any further activity on the account, you can exclude inactive customers from ledgers and selection lists. So if I just say OK to that, I'm going to tick it. and I'm just going to say save. It goes back to a blank record, and if I close that, and it's still showing in here at the moment, if I add in a column to show inactive records, so if I right click on here, if I find where it is, that's near the top, I'm going to add in another column, and it's got a little Y next to it. So there's another one down here. We've got my Dave's Diner, and we've got a company that I've called 123. We've got both of those flagged as inactive. Now we can hide these. So it might be that I just want to see all of my customers in the list that are active. In the top right-hand corner, we've got a little checkbox, include inactive. If I just untick that, because it's ticked at the moment, they disappear out of view. So they're still there in the background, but they're now not in my list. So I can just say that all my customers that are shown here, they're all active. I want to bring them back again. Just tick the checkbox and it'll pop them back in there for you. So it's just a good way of, if you've got older records that you may use again, but at the moment you don't want them in the list because it's cluttering things up, you can mark them as inactive and it just hides them. You can untick that box and it'll remove them out of the list for you there. So I haven't had any questions come through on there at the moment. So if you do have any questions, make sure that you pop them in. I'll keep this open for a little bit longer as well. Don't forget you also have the demonstration data as well as the practice data too. So if it is something that you're thinking, oh, I'm not too sure how to use that, have a go in the demonstration data or the practice data. I'll just quickly go back and show you. So I'll pop back in here, and you've probably seen me show you this before, but if you go to File at the top, and open. You've got the option to open demonstration data, which is a set of just preset data that Sage have made up. When you go into there, you can have a play around. You can't break anything. You're not in a live set of data. We've got your practice data, which is a completely blank company, which can be good if you're trying to follow something through from start to finish to see how it works. So you haven't got other transactions or records that are obscuring things in the background. I think from version 30 or above, you actually get the choice. You can use a blank company, or you can restore just a backup of your data into there. So it's completely separate from your live data. And you can use your data in there just to see how things work. But it just makes it a bit easier if you're not too sure and think, I don't want to do that in my live data. Open up demo data. I'll pop into it there now just to show you, because I have had customers ring before thinking that they'd opened somebody else's data before, because if you look at the top there, it's put me into a company that's called Stationery and Computer Mart UK, and that is the demonstration data. We just have a look. You've got customers. A lot you'll probably recognize the name of, because we tend to use demo data sometimes for our demonstrations. You've got all sorts in here, so you can go through and you can have a bit practice. As promised, I've included some links to useful guides in our help centre, which you can visit at sage.co.uk/help, or just by downloading today's slides and clicking on the link there. So the customise your software, that basically goes through everything that we've had a look at today. So it's got all of the steps in there as well, which is really handy. But obviously there was a few things just to cover there. And then customise your software, that's a good one. And your keyboard shortcuts also goes through those when you're clicking on Alt and using the keyboard basically. And just to let you know that we do offer personalised one-to-one training. So if you'd like a dedicated one-to-one remote session with one of our experts that can tailor the call to you and your needs, just scan that QR code and complete the form. It's a really quick form, and then what we'll do is we'll get in touch with you within 48 hours. Just have a bit of a chat just to see what we think might suit you. If there's any areas that you want to gain a bit of confidence or automate processes possibly on there, just to make day-to-day a bit easier. I'll include the link to the access form on the follow-up email, as well as that QR code on the slide. So either way, you can either click on it or just scan it, and then we'll get back in touch with you once we've got that completed form. But that brings us to the end of today's session. So we're bang on time there, which is nice for you as well. So I hope that you've found some of those tips useful, and it'll make things a bit easier for you as well. But as always, you'll get a survey when leaving today's session, which I'd love it if you could fill it in, give us any feedback. We love reading those comments on there. If there's anything that you'd like to see on a webinar, perhaps, we're always like to see, if there's anything that you want us to sort of run. But other than that, I just want to say thank you very much for attending, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again.